Manager of the Epcot International Flower and Garden Festival, and once again we're going to be doing behind-the-scenes tours. You're soon all going to have your own PPE. I'd also like to introduce and thank Carla Schubin. She is one of our landscape architects, and she will not tell you this, but I will. Most of the really cute, fun stuff in the garden she designed. So she's really, you know, you think of architect, landscape architect, who just says put the tree here, the shrub here. She does that, but she also tells stories, because that's what we do at this. So we're going to be going through the garden. I can give you the overview idea. Carla knows the details better. Between both of us, we find the plants, and she has all the plants and the plant list.
Wow. This is the plant. This is the set of plans that we produce for the Flower and Garden Festival. So it's, you know, it's a lot of people. It's a big group effort. We all come up with ideas. We kind of get together and brainstorm a lot. And so it's not just the landscape architects, the horticulturists that come up with stuff. We'll work with marketing. We'll get ideas from anyone.
WDI, that we work very closely with WDI lately. So you know,
it really is we have a really good working relationship with a lot of people here.
And I'm glad you brought that, because that shows we're not just throwing in a few gardens, we're planning major construction. And as soon as this festival's over, we'll start planning the next festival. Because you really can't ask a contractor to come in and do work without it detailed. Or at least it is if we don't.
Well, and a lot of the work is done at night. So it has to be all worked out, it has to be choreographed with all the cranes, with all the crews. It's got to be organized down to the very last little bit.
So what we're going to do, we're going to leave from here. There's not a lot to see. Almost all the festival is in. Every festival's in except front entrance. So there's not a whole lot to see until we get to the other side of Spaceship Earth. As had before, just the flat. This year we tried to bring a little more animation into the shot by making them more in the act of flying, and we also have the antenna and the legs. The story of these is we actually had these last year, and we're planning on using them in Teardrop, and then the Soccer Goofy thing came up. So pretty last minute, probably December, January, we decided to do the Soccer Goofy and just set these aside, saying, well, we'll debut them next year. So we kind of got a extra free new topiaries this year, paid for on last year's dime. So, and then of course, you'll notice it's just the design with the flower. Carla, did you do this one?
It was Eric's idea. See, he's very modest. They said, how about if we make a big flower and then the butterflies will be landing on a flower in the flower garden. So that's a real cool. And we can do that because we've got a slight slope here.
Right, otherwise it wouldn't read. The reason I like these from a horticulture standpoint, they're really cool. People are lining up to take their picture, but we're not depending on them being Disney characters. They're just good topiary.
And you'll notice the big flowers, we've gone to some succulents for the inside of that, which is just a really cool effect, a neat texture and color. The horticulture department are always trying new things. So some years there may be flowers in those balls. This year it's those succulents. And if you'd asked us 10 years ago about succulents, we would have said no, we can't use them. Just like we probably wouldn't have used some of the bedding plants that you see. But we've kind of had to step back and think a minute, wait a minute, we're not, and we'd say you can't use succulents because they don't live in the winter. Well, I mean the summer. But you know what? The festival's not in the summer. So we'll use them because they do that well this time of year. That's a lot of the bedding plants you see. Look, there's poppies in that bed. 8 years ago, you'd have never seen poppies in the festival. We're just using them as annuals. And that way, people from up north who grew up with those types of flowers can see things. Being from Louisiana, I never had poppies. I'll let Carla talk it because they had more to do with this design. I will just say that from a horticulture standpoint, this is one of our favorite gardens because it speaks to gardening. You know, it tells a story of color and flowers. Carla, do you want to explain it? The idea of this garden was to bring in the concept of color in the garden. The color wheel is a real easy one. We wanted something that was raised, easy to see, and it'll be planted. We'll change out the colors. We'll change out the plants as time goes on, as we transition from the fall flowers to the warm season annuals. We're partnering with Rainbird this year in the color garden, and it's really exciting because we're able to showcase different types of irrigation system for larger shrubs, for turf, and for bedding plants. So that'll be another layer on top of it.
And that's one of the stories we like to tell. You know, Rainbow's been a partner since the very first Flower and Garden Festival. And one of the things that we at Disney like to talk about is conservation of water. We're very conscious of our water use. And if you're conscious of your water use and you have an irrigation system, you know, that's where you're using a lot of your water. Chances are if you had a builder installed irrigation system, you could do better. So, you know, as we stress our resources more and more, it's critical that all of us help conserve water. But the story is you can conserve water and use a whole lot less water and still have a really nice landscape. And that's the story we want to tell. You know, it's not like, oh, well, I have to cut back on water so now I can't garden as much. That is just not true. Okay. Any questions about the garden?
As you can see, we're still working on it. There'll be different swaths of color out here. On this side, there are cool tone shrubs and bedding plants. On that side, you'll see our more warm season. So the yellows, the oranges, the reds on this side, the blues, and those things. Once you get into the low 40s,
yeah, the question was about, it must have really hurt y'all. You got to realize, we expect it. You have to expect it when you're in Florida. We could get frost here for another 2 weeks. March 15th is our frost-free day. So we have a plan. What made this one particularly challenging wasn't the fact that it was cold. We knew what we were going to do. We knew what we had to do. But we were in the midst of installing the Flower and Garden Festival. As you might imagine, we're all pretty busy then. So it took some creative scheduling for us to be able to still keep installing the Flower and Garden Festival and find ways to protect the plants that need protecting. But as Carla was saying, many of the plants don't need protecting. You know, a lot of the bedding plants we use right now are cool season. Plus, it was right before we planted a whole lot of bedding plants. These weren't in the ground yesterday. So I walked this garden, there was no bedding plants in it. So, you know, it's not like everything was planted, which was nice. But it was a challenge, but again, it's something that we expect to happen every single year. Because I'd say every other year it happens.
Yeah, somewhere.
Some way,
time.
yeah.
There's a lot of frost cloth on the ground.
Yes, yes. And we cover all our topiaries with military surplus parachutes. We found that's the easiest thing to cover them up with. Okay. Come on up. Speaking of that, the Cactus Road Rally Garden, of course, it features Lightning and Mater, as it has the last several years. But this year, rather than just doing a pretty garden with the playground and topiaries, we're actually telling a gardening story, and that's where I'll let Carla take over.
Of course, the Lightning and Mater from Radiator Springs, and I was pointing out the radiators. Some of our guests will get that, and some won't. They won't. What is that junk in the garden? Or they'll get Radiator Springs. And Radiator Springs is set in the American Southwest. So we decided to take that idea and expand on it and do a cactus and succulent garden. And we're really excited. We have an area of the garden that has a railing on it so we can put our most prickly, spiny cactuses over there, and then the not-so ones on this side. And what we're going to do is tell a little story graphically about why there are cactus and succulents. You know, the whole idea is that they store water to survive in the hot, arid climate. And what do they use? They use their stems, they use their leaves. Even the spines of a cactus have a purpose besides protection, which I didn't realize, but it provides some shade to cool the plant. And so those are fun little facts that our guests will be able to learn as they go through these gardens. And you can see, you know, there's some sign frames in here, but the final layer of graphics doesn't happen until next week. Lightning and Mater with the garden and with the plants.
And if I'm not mistaken, in 22 years, I don't think we've told this story before that I can remember.
No, I think there's been some festival-centered speakers
on cactus.
Right. Well, and I think that for a lot of our guests, cactus and succulents are becoming more popular. I have container gardens at home that I could not keep plants in until I put succulents in them because it gets a lot of hot sun on that side of the house. So you see more and more, and these are all things that will do well in Florida. So, you know that we use a lot of look-alike plants plants that, for instance, the evergreens of up north, we can't bring those exact plants here, but we'll choose something that is more acclimated to Florida that looks like that. And all of these, some of them are native.
Oh, that's right. I didn't know
Those variegated, that's a version of a native plant. So, you know, a lot of parts of Florida have cactus and succulents that are adapted to the climate here.
Yeah, a lot of Florida is a higher climate. It's meant to burn, and as you know, our springs are very generally winter and springs are dry. This may be an exception, but so in the sand hills in Florida, if you go 6 weeks without rain, which we often do, you've got a desert environment almost, as far as there's no soil moisture. So any trees that are native to the central Florida ridge are going to have strategies to protect themselves from drought. And that's why you have the Spanish bayonet. I don't know if it's native, but they sure are acclimated. I've got some pretty...
So they are very, very happy right now.
Presented by Go-Go Squeeze, who's been a festival partner for several years. This isn't planted yet because we're waiting. We have to put in all the signage and graphics that WDI is working on, so that'll happen very, very soon. This demonstrates to you that, and this isn't just true at Flower and Garden Festival, but this house demonstrates to you is how the horticulture, the landscaping is always the last to go in, and how fast it can go in. Really, the plantings happen quick. It's all the other logistics, the laying the concrete, the putting in the fences, the doing the footers. I could go on and on. All the construction stuff is what takes the time. Once we get it in horticulture, it's a pretty quick process. You got to realize that we're routinely around the different parks planting between 3,000 and 7,000 bedding plants a night. So while that sounds daunting, planting that many bedding plants is just what we do. The same with shrubs and everything. It's not intimidating, and we're pretty good at it. So, you know, someone mentioned this house always has so much energy. It doesn't right now, but it certainly will Wednesday morning. I believe Tuesday morning was when we released the butterflies, and then Wednesday when you come in, they're acclimated, they're fine. And I did check, unless the weather forecast has changed, it looks to be a very nice day next Wednesday. People ask, all right, you opened all your gardens, why didn't you open the butterfly house at night? The answer is butterflies don't fly at night. We can open it, and you'd have a bunch of butterflies sitting. They don't just need sun, they need warmth as well for them to fly. And artificial lighting doesn't get the job done. This is still one of the most popular displays in the festival. It's also one, whenever you'll notice we change displays. We just talked about how we change displays every year. That's Cactus Road Rally. I don't know that we'll ever not do this house. It's too popular. This is one thing that I think is always going to be here. I would hope. We did get a new sidewalk this year, so one of the problems in the past has been it's so congested, which, you know, when you do a Flower and Garden Festival, congestion is not really something you hate that bad. It means it's very popular. But it is nice when the guests have more room, and with this wider sidewalk, I think that'll be the case.
How do you keep a steady supply of butterflies when you have them off ground somewhere?
We have a gentleman that we buy them from who's gotten to the hat. He actually is an ex-Disney cast member. He was a convention server, and he had this crazy idea going back 25 years ago that he could make a living selling butterflies. Everyone told him it was crazy. He actually had one of his friends, one of the guys in horticulture, who helped him learn how to grow plants, because to grow butterflies you have to grow plants. Now all I know is he has like a 32-foot boat in Daytona, so butterflies have worked really well for him. And what he'll do is he brings them to us in the chrysalis form. It's actually easier on the butterfly. It's less money. But what we found out, it's probably the favorite part of the house, because in all these little houses you see, we'll have the chrysalis boards in there. Now butterflies emerge in the morning. Usually by 10, 12 o'clock they're done. But when you have 250 chrysalis in here, you're always going to have every day 15 to 20 to 30, sometimes 50 butterflies emerging. And if y'all haven't seen it, you should come in here. Oftentimes you'll see a family stand there the entire process, because when the butterfly emerges, they just come right out. That thing pops open and they're out. But then their wings are all shriveled up. I mean, truly like you took a piece of paper and wadded it up. and their bodies are big and bloated. It takes them about 20 minutes to 30 minutes to pump fluid from their body into their wings, and you can literally pretty much see those wings opening up. And then of course they have to dry, probably 20-30 minutes. Well, it depends on the sun and the warmth, and then they can fly. So it's really a magical experience for the guests to see it, and I probably get more positive feedback over that than anything else that happens in the Flower and Garden Festival. Well, except the topiaries. But it's also one of my favorite things. I have time on Saturday to come in here and watch that and interact with the guests doing it, so it's a lot of fun. Minnie. You'll immediately notice we've done something different. We took a play out of the book we had last year with Goofy and switched the way the bed is facing to the back side. You know, the front entrance shot is classic at Disney and the festival with Goofy and all that going on, but we thought it would be really great for our guests to let them get an iconic image of Mickey and Minnie with Spaceship Earth in the background. And that's why we created the bed like this. We are also probably going to be putting a festival sign in here, so when people take the picture with the background, they'll know in their photo albums that they were at the Epcot Flower and Garden Festival. And these are two of my favorite characters. Notice, just to point out, several of y'all who've been coming over the years, remember on their faces we used to use the dried moss. We really, really wanted to try to make them live again, so we started using the vines, and we like that look a lot better. It makes them really, I think, look more naturalistic by doing that. It's more fun to do from a horticulture standpoint too, because we're actually growing something. It's topiary. The backstory is and many of y'all know we did this facial treatment on Snow White last year. We did that. One of our leaders really pushed us to see if we could make it happen. We didn't know if it was going to work on Snow White, quite frankly, until we put that head on the frame. Because it's such a challenging thing that we're doing here. It worked for Snow White. Had we not done Snow White, we would have never even imagined doing Anna and Elsa. So Snow White has really allowed us to do all of our face characters again as we get to them. You'll notice that I'm taking Carla's thing, but I can talk.
You go right ahead.
The whole idea is the scene is at the end of the film when Elsa realizes she can make everything right again. So you'll see that the landscape is half winter and half summer, and as the festival goes on, that'll become even more apparent. And it's really Anna who tells the story. The facial expression on Elsa is kind of unreadable. She could be being good or bad. It's Anna's happy, like, woo, expression that tells you something really great's going on here. There is one more element that's going in on Sunday night. We're putting in flower towers behind the bed that change from one color white to the other. So that'll be the final element. So there will be some more vertical elements in here as well before the Flower and Garden Festival opens. Needless to say, we're pleased with this. It'll be as popular as any we've done. The first day we put it up by 2 o'clock, we had the PhotoPass person here. There's actually talk of on the busy days adding 2 PhotoPass people so we can have enough. And the nice thing about the PhotoPass, it helps form a natural line so you don't get just this people really anxious to get up and take the photos.
Do you have any thoughts on Noel?
We're always thinking about what to add to the show. Yeah, we're talking about it.
Did you mention the twinkle lights?
Yes, the trees and everything are going to get twinked as well. Thanks, Jenny. And as you'll notice, our entertainment already has it set up with the truss towers to light them at night. So these will be lit up at nighttime as well.
All these things are going to grow up and create a green living roof over the top. And it's all drip irrigation, hydroponically grown. The water from the fish is used to water the plants because it has the nutrients from the fish waste in it. So it's a cycle sort of a concept, and so we're really excited to have this in the garden this year.
So this is the Urban Farm Eats garden. If you'll remember last year we had a outdoor kitchen by the same name, except it didn't have a garden. We liked the concept so well we wanted to move it into the garden. It also allows us to do something that is so popular with the guests, and that is growing growing your own herbs and vegetables. Like I mentioned earlier, it's how we're going to get our young kids gardening. Everyone is very concerned about the food they eat, where it comes from. The one way to ensure, of course, that you're going to have wholesome, fresh food is if you grow it yourself. And what we're trying to show guests here is that it's not that hard. It's certainly not as hard. I would actually say that a lot of vegetables are actually easier to grow than a lot of ornamentals. That's my experience. You know, I think the collard's about the easiest thing in the world to grow. And we're growing lots of pretty easy growing plants. And also showing different ways to do them. You know, it doesn't have to be in your ground. Somebody often say, well, all I have is a condo and a patio. I'm like, you can grow a lot of food on patio with some containers, even pallets. Somewhere we have the straw bales. I think we walked by the straw bales, even the vertical, the triangles. So there's lots of techniques to grow in. All you need is the soil and a place to put the soil and for the plant to grow. You also notice we also have a nice aquaponics system where we have the tilapia growing. That's actually done by a company called Pentair right up in Apopka, who made that for us. The whole idea is that the waste from the fish are used to fertilize the plants clean the water that the fish live in. It's an ancient technique that Chinese have been doing it for thousands of years. And there's no reason homeowners can't. I actually talked to a guest not long ago who's doing it at home on a much smaller scale than this, and was wanting to expand it because he actually is not only growing vegetables, he's also raising fish that his family consumes. So I love this garden because it has a lot of things in it that I like. I'm sure our guests will too. I think this may be the most popular garden in the festival. I wouldn't be surprised. And I think it'll be the most eye-opening. It feels different to me than any we've done before. Of course, we're also going to be serving food. On top of the great garden. Oh yeah, you can also get something to eat or drink. We're doing the tilapia again, the ghost pepper dusted tilapia. We're also doing a kale salad out of this one.
With cherries.
Yes, with dried cherries in it. It's very good. So, the tradition continues of having the food reflecting what's growing in the garden. Do you have any questions?
We try to choose attractive varieties, so the purple leaf cabbage, the rainbow chard, and we mix them in with our bedding plants because we think that the vegetables and the ornamentals can work together.
Yeah, there's no reason it can't.
And look at this right here. I mean, you've got mint on the end, and then you got flowers, and then you got tomato in the middle. I mean, that's really cool.
It actually. Most of us internally agreeing that this was the best play garden we've ever done. I don't know if Carla would agree with that because she's done some good ones. But this one gets it all. It has the older kids play stuff, the younger kids play stuff, two of our best topiaries, and the garden really tells a story. We're going to bring in props on these flower towers. That's a new element from last year. You remember how when we did the monsters over there in Showcase Plaza, you may remember we turned our flower towers into monsters themselves, and you see what Carla has there. We'll put eyes and body parts on them to make them look like monsters themselves. I thought that was extremely creative way to use them. And then all the plants in here are picked because they're monstrous looking or monstrous shaped, big leaves, funny stems. So it all goes in to tell the story of the garden. And it's a great place for the kids to play and shady locations for the parents to kick back and have something they just bought over at Urban Farm Eats Garden. Do you have any questions?
Any lessons learned from this garden last year that you're incorporating for this year?
We're just trying to make it even more monstrous, bringing in the flower towers, which we didn't have last year. Just taking what works and throwing more of it in. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a lesson. It's more of looking for an improvement. Not all the guests get, the hidden Mickey kind of idea. And this happened because we were talking about the characters. We have the same topiary, and we're always thinking about how to use them different. And just joking, someone said, because it was in this area, Peter Pan was actually on the ground that year, someone said, too bad we can't make Peter Pan fly. Of course, they were joking, kind of making a joke. And it was like, well, we can make Peter Pan fly. He could have flown to the roof. So I thought it was going to be a very simple thing to put him on the roof. It was quite complicated and not inexpensive engineering him up on that roof. What you don't see is about a 12-foot cantilever that goes down to the roof that we then set an 800-pound weight on to hold Peter Pan in place. So, when we said, look, you put him on the roof, I'm thinking, yeah, just put him on the roof. Well, Nothing's ever that simple, but it does make a nice play, and it's awful fun to be here when someone discovers it, because they feel like they found something that other people don't know about.
And I like to ask them. Those teacups will have the different tea plants of different Twinings tea.
Yeah, what's
So
in there right now is just holding the place. And the secret is about those.
Okay, yeah. I guess I just stay. I'm gonna get hit anyway.
So you may think, how do we plant these? And this is the same way that tea plants are done. It's a hanging basket. Or this is actually a hanging basket in a pot. And that's how we do for what you see there for the tea. It's the same thing. We grow it at the nursery as a hanging basket and then put it in there. I'll take that car.
And of course there's a tour that the Twinings folks do during the day, and they go from station to station and talk about the different teas and the different plants.
Cinderella and Prince Charming over to your right underneath the clock. Venezuelan style, northern North Mexico, but this just northern South America, sorry. But the story that we're telling is one we're excited about. We're talking about New World plants and New World food, how much that provided to the rest of the world. And what we really want our guests to keep in mind, think if you were living in Europe or Africa or in Asia in the year 1200. The list of plants that you would have never heard of is amazing. From potatoes to corn, a lot of pumpkins, most beans, tomatoes, potatoes both, peppers, chocolate. So you start going down the list of things that are in our diet multiple times a day that come from the New World. Carl, do you have anything to add? And you know, this area is going to tell the story, and we're really going to hit that story hard. Actually, the garden continues on and exits out over there. We're not going to exit that way. We're going to exit where we came in. But there is, like all of our large gardens, there are going to be two exits as well. I really like the story in this garden. It's one we've told in small ways before. We've never done a whole garden based on this story. That's a good one. It's a good one to talk about.
Say its name again.
Botanicus Botanico.
No.
Botanico Botanico.
Botanus.
Botanus.
B-O-T-A-N-A-S. Botanus Botanico.
It means small snacks.
Perfect.
So, you know, one of the things that we take very seriously